So there was someone who was sharing this situation in which they were being taken advantage of. And this is someone who is very kind and giving. And when you are kind and giving, certainly there will be people now and then who will seek to take advantage of that. Certainly, I've experienced this many times in my own life. So this person was telling how they were being taken advantage of by someone, and they had recognized this some time ago. And in fact, they had tried several times to break ties with this person. But this other person would become upset, they would become sad, they would feel hurt. And naturally, if you're very empathetic and compassionate, you want to console a person who is feeling hurt. And if the only way to console them is to assure them that you'll continue to be there for them, that you'll continue to give your time and energy or whatever it happens to be, then this is what we typically tend to do. It's very challenging to walk away from someone who feels sad and hurt whenever you try to walk away. And in fact, this is exactly how they keep you from walking away. Oftentimes, this is a manipulation tactic. Because you are so kind and generous, compassionate, and consoling, it is easy to manipulate you into doing whatever it is the person wants you to do. All they have to do is become sad or upset when you don't do what they want. And because you don't want to see them upset, you give into it. Now, I'm not saying that the other is necessarily conscious of this manipulation. They may not even be aware that they're doing this. It may simply be something automatic which was conditioned in them early on in life. It may have been that as a child, every time that they were sad or upset, their parents would do anything to console them. And if there was anything that they wanted that their parents would not give them, all they had to do was cry and throw a tantrum, and the parent would give in. But we carry this kind of conditioning with us into our adult lives, where it continues to play out in our adult relationships. And we may be totally unaware of it. It may be that the sadness we express feels very real. Not that we're just putting on an act to convince the other, while all the while underneath we're just conniving. So the performance is so good that we even convince ourselves. We really do believe that we are helpless to take care of ourselves. So this person was saying how this had been going on for a very long time, and intuitively they knew that the relationship was toxic, but they couldn't walk away because every time they tried, the other would become upset. But in the end, it was they who had felt hurt because they kept putting the needs of the other before their own. So what is the lesson in all of this? Don't put the needs of others before your own. Be kind, be compassionate, but don't let others take advantage of you. And this can be very challenging. If you're someone who is very compassionate, very generous and giving, it may seem selfish to put your own needs before others, or to deny the needs of others. It would seem that by doing so, you might wind up neglecting others. But what we're talking about here is when you're giving so much of your time and energy to others that you wind up neglecting yourself. And because of this, you wind up drained of energy. Your tank is on empty and you wind up burning out. And what good can you be to anyone if all your energy is drained? If you really want to be of service to others, you have to fill your own cup first, because you cannot pour from an empty cup. And if your cup is full and you're using it to fill the cups of others, but you never stop to refill it, eventually it runs dry. So even then, there has to be some balance. So when we talk about taking care of our own needs first, this isn't to say that we completely neglect others. But we have to recognize that to be able to serve others, to share with others, we have to begin with ourselves. We have to maintain ourselves. Otherwise, we become useless to others. But in this case, we're also talking about when someone is taking advantage of us, when someone is taking all of our energy, leaving none for us, and giving none in return. And in this case, we have to know when to take the cup away, when to stop serving, when to stop giving, when to conserve what little energy we have left. Often we become burned out because we're doing everything for this other person. It's not simply a matter of doing some small favor now and then, or offering assistance when it's truly needed. It may be that the other is entirely dependent upon us. And not because they have some disability, but because it's just easier to have someone else do everything for you. And so often we may be doing more harm than good. We may be hindering that person more than we're actually helping them. We may be doing so much for the other, but this may include many things which they are fully capable of doing for themselves. And it may even be that the other believes themselves to be incapable, but it's only because they haven't tried. If they always have someone else to do these things for them, then they may never realize that they are actually capable of doing these things on their own. So if we're doing every little thing for this person, we're maintaining that conditioning in them. We're maintaining their reliance on others. We're maintaining their sense of helplessness. And so if we really want to help that person, sometimes the best thing that we can do is to help them to realize what they're capable of doing for themselves. And that will often mean stepping back and allowing them to figure it all out on their own. And if we must be involved in that in some way, sometimes the best thing we can do is to simply encourage them that they're capable of doing it on their own and not to do it for them. Now, as soon as you decide to do this, to stop doing everything for this person who has long relied on others to do everything for them, typically what happens is that the person is going to be upset. And they're going to try to appeal to your kindness and generosity. They may even try to make you feel guilty, to feel responsible for making them feel upset. And all of this is an attempt to compel you to give in and do their bidding. So you have to remain firm in your resolve. This is where you really have to set some boundaries, to say to yourself, I will not be this person's caregiver, that I won't do for them what they are perfectly capable of doing for themselves, and I will not be manipulated by their false sense of helplessness or their neediness. Nor will I consider myself responsible for their feelings when they become upset by my refusal to do these things for them. But if I must do anything for them, if I do really care about this person and I feel compelled to help them in some way, I will recognize that the best help I can offer them is to help them to realize their own capabilities, to encourage and empower them to do these things on their own, to be supportive only in terms of my words, by simply encouraging them, and by congratulating them whenever they do accomplish anything on their own. Because when a person is left to figure things out on their own, to take care of their own needs and responsibilities, and they follow through with it, it's very empowering. That person will feel very accomplished. Their self-esteem is strengthened, and all of this feels very good. So what you are ultimately offering that person is the opportunity to feel good about themselves. And that's priceless. But you also have to allow yourself the opportunity to feel good about yourself, to be able to take care of your own needs, to conserve your energy, to have time and space for yourself, to relax and rejuvenate. And it may be that this other person simply refuses to do anything for themselves. Despite all your encouragement, they may still refuse. They might go on stirring up conflict in an attempt to push you to give in. And it may be that they refuse to respect your boundaries, that they will not allow you to have space to yourself, at which point it may be best to cut them off entirely. Every situation is different, so you have to figure out what is the best course of action for your own situation. But I've listened to many people talk about this very sort of thing, and they always seem to know exactly what needs to be done. They know what the problem is, and they know how to address it. But often they don't. Often they're too attached to this other person, or they take too much responsibility for the other person's feelings and simply cannot bear to see them upset. So it's a very good chance that you know exactly what you need to do, but there is something holding you back. So I would say find out what that is. Find out what is preventing you from taking the appropriate action and resolve it. And this might mean having to accept that the other is going to be upset and having the resolve not to interfere, but rather to stand back and simply allow them to be upset, to realize that it's not your responsibility. It's not your responsibility to take care of all their needs, nor is it your responsibility to appease them, to console them, to make them feel happy. But it is your responsibility to take care of yourself. And this includes your own emotional state. This includes caring for yourself, loving and respecting yourself enough not to allow others to continue to take advantage of your kindness. Certainly we should be kind, but kindness doesn't mean being a doormat. We must also be kind to ourselves. In fact, this has to come first. Take care of yourself first. Be kind to yourself. Don't allow yourself to be abused in any way, to be manipulated, to be taken advantage of. Set healthy boundaries for yourself, that you don't overextend yourself, that you don't neglect yourself, that you don't give all of your energy to others while leaving nothing for yourself. If you find value in this content, be sure to like, share, and subscribe.